Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of uh, Things to Ponder During Lent. I guess I'm still working on a title on this. I know we're not even halfway through, but so bear with me. It's a work in progress. So in the next few days, we're going to be breaking open the scriptures and kind of delving deeper into the gospels that are for those days. The reason we are doing this is because in the next few days, I feel like there's a lot to uncover, to unpack during that time. And so today, we're focusing on today's this Monday's reading, which is which is a gospel reading that often gets misinterpreted. It we hear it all the time, but I feel like we lose the essence of what scripture or what the scripture actually tells us versus what we decide that the interpretation is. So we find the gospel of Luke, be merciful just as also your father is merciful. Stop judging and you will not be judged. Stop condemning and you will not be condemned. Forgive and you will be forgiven. Give and gifts will be given to you. A good measure, packed together, shaken down, and overflowing will be poured into your lap. For the measure with which you measure will in return be measured out to you. So then he goes on to a parable and so on. So, what I wanted to focus on today was that phrase, the judge not lest ye be judged, or in this instance, is stop judging and you will not be judged. Now, here's the thing, this is one scripture that I feel like it is the most misunderstood, or one of the most misunderstood scriptures, because you hear it everywhere. I mean, even people who don't necessarily know scripture itself, at least our Catholic scripture, will spout this out because it is a good way to just kind of throw something in somebody's face. What we'll talk about tomorrow is going to get deeper into this. But today I wanted to focus on the judgment part. And I don't know if you realize this, but throughout the day, there is a lot of judgment that passes through us. Now, we have to differentiate between what right judgment is and what the judgment that scripture talks about is. So, right judgment is it is what has kept you alive up till now. So what that means is if, for example, you are allergic to peanut butter, if you know you're allergic, let's say you actually go into anaphylactic shock when there is peanut butter, right judgment tells you, hey, don't get anywhere near it if you can prevent it. Somebody were to bring up the scripture and say, don't judge me, don't judge this peanut butter, and you go in and you take a big spoonful into your mouth, something's going to happen. Obviously, you're going to end up in some kind of shock. And unless you get an EpiPen, that's going to be the end of your story. So we use right judgment in many ways. If somebody is coming at us with a gun or knife, we judge the situation to be that of something that is dangerous to us, and we run the other way. Now, the judgment that is spoken about here in Scripture, we're talking about judging people's souls. That is the judgment that is wrong. Why? Because we have a preconceived notion of who this person is or what they have to offer either to ourselves, to the world, to themselves, or what we even have an ability to offer to them. And so if we come across somebody who, is down on their luck, who is asking for change on the street, and we refuse to offer them that mercy through our financial gift or whatever, and we say, okay, they're using that money because they're going to go out and buy drugs or alcohol, then we're judging them because we're judging their heart, we're judging their soul, we're judging the fact that if I do this, it's going to be this. In other words, we're deciding what they are going to do with it before they even have a chance to do anything else with it. How the See the difference between there? We're assuming their actions, and that is the judgment that is condemned here. Why? Because then if we do that, imagine if God did that with us, he would condemn us. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of times that I've acted as if I didn't love God. Every time we sin, that's how we act. We act as if we don't love God. And so when we do those things and God judged us based on those, based on our heart, we would all be condemned to hell because our actions would have deserved it. But the judgment that gets confused, gets mucky, is where we're judging somebody's actions, literal actions, and saying, okay, what you're doing isn't in line or doesn't fall as a person that wants to get to heaven is doing. Whether that means you're cheating on your spouse, whether that means that you're in a relationship that isn't conducive for your spiritual well-being, or if it's doing anything that is breaking any of God's commandments, any of them. And so when you talk to somebody and you explain to them that their way of life, whatever they're doing in the moment, is not something that's going to help them get to heaven, and they turn around and say, don't judge me, judge not lest ye be judged, or whatever they use, then what they're saying is what you believe to be true is not my truth, so you shouldn't judge. Don't judge my heart. And the truth of the matter is, you're not judging their heart, you're judging their actions. And that is the difference. So we should be judging others. Again, not their heart, not their soul. That's what we're called to do as Christians, as Catholics. And it's important to make that distinction, because if we don't do that, then we're not acting as brothers and sisters to our fellow parishioners, to our fellow people that are out there in the pews. We're not. We're saying that whatever they're doing is perfectly fine. And it's not. Plain and simply, it's not. Now, if it's a stranger on the street, obviously we have no idea what their life is about. And obviously, it shouldn't be pointed out. It shouldn't need to be pointed out. But when we approach somebody about their actions, obviously it has to be with love. We can't just sit there, as many of our brothers and sisters sit in street corners and saying, you Catholics are going to go to hell, because we can't condemn anyone to hell. Only God can do that. That is completely true. Only God can judge in that way. He's the only one that is going to, at the end of time, sit there in the seat of judgment and tell us, you're going to hell and you're going to come to heaven. Other than that, nobody else can tell you. So if we do it from that source of love, and in a few days, we'll talk about what that source of love means. But if you do it with that, from that source of love, then any judgment that you do is going to be rightly ordered. It's going to be judging to help you become who you need to be to get to heaven, because that's ultimately our goal. It's to get to heaven. So thank you so much for listening, and Marcos out.